So welcome and thank you for joining us for this latest episode of the MCC livestream series. And we are, of course, featuring the Everyone Can Code program from Apple and resources around supporting the teaching of computing. And let's get our introductions done first. So with me, as always, is Mr. David Kirtland. David is a very experienced Apple professional learning specialist and teacher, and all-round expert on creativity and computing and coding. Oh, he's just, I'm in awe, David. I'm in absolute awe. My name is Richard Child. I'm the Education Manager for MCC Digital. We are an Apple authorized education specialist. And joining us today is a special guest, Mr. Darren Tobin from Sphero. Say hello, Darren.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So we're going to go through an introduction to Sphero today, and Darren's going to take us through that. We're going to sort of talk about Sphero and Swift maybe next time, because these great resources that are great fun in the classroom really bring coding off the screen, onto the desk, onto the floor, into the playground. They do work with the Playgrounds app, but today we're going to look at what you get from Sphero to help you with the teaching of coding and computing. So Darren, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm just going to share my iPad screen, bear with. So let's just go here. And fingers crossed, you should now see.
Excellent. Yeah, we can see your iPad.
Beautiful. Okay. So I'm just going to dive into a couple of slides actually via Keynote, just to sort of give you guys a bit of background into Sphero, who we are and what we do, for those of you that don't know. So Sphero is a company that I think make incredibly cool robots, you know, and they're used to teach computer science content in any curriculum area. And we've been making robots since 2010. Now, we offer, or we provide, extensive learning activities which are completely standards aligned for easy integration into the curriculum through our Sphero EDU app, which we'll demonstrate in a bit. But just so you know, that app is used by over 3.5 million learners around the world. And what we've found with Sphero EDU is that, you know, it's something for every age group. We offer 3 different coding campuses within the EDU app: Draw, Block, and Text. And if you're not familiar, again, we're going to do a deep dive into that so you can see how all 3 of those campuses work. But that allows you to go from beginner to advanced coding skills all within one application. And these 3 coding options do make it easy for teachers to use Sphero with students of any age or ability. I think, you know, what's important is what makes us different. What makes us different from other sort of robotics companies within the STEM arena? Well, you know, for starters, we offer standards aligned curriculum, which is cross-disciplined via STEM solutions, which enhances learning in a variety of subjects and classrooms to support school leaders. And often what we see is a day with Sphero is touted as the best day of school. You know, students and kids learn through play and project-based STEM-inspired lessons and activities. And it's designed for learner progression. So the robots, the content, and the curriculum foster collaboration and engagement among students. And we also have professional development courses that are also available to enhance learning and understanding for teachers. We often find that the teachers are the ones that need a bit more understanding before the kids do. So it's there to support them. And our robots provide a fun, engaging way for kids of all ages and skill levels to learn those critical skills of the 21st century. There are thousands upon thousands of free lesson plans available in the app, and they're designed for independent or parent-guided learning, either at home or in the classroom. So before we do a deep dive in, I'm just going to sort of take you through the basics of the sort of login process for Sphero EDU. So you will be presented with this login screen. At the top left-hand corner is the first icon. You're either a school user or you're a home user. And for our sort of environment, we're a school user. And then the next screen down will be either you're joining as a class, i.e. you're a student, or you're managing a class, i.e. you're a teacher. Or there's a quick start method where you can just go straight in and start coding. And then via the join class, you would be presented with the top right-hand image, which is where you can enter a class code. So you don't have to actually add any sort of personal details like date of births, email addresses, that sort of thing. And then the bottom right-hand corner is where you would sign in as a teacher. So let's just go straight into the app and I'll show you how this works. So here we are. I'm a school user. So I'm going to click on school user and I'm a teacher. So I'm going to go into manage classrooms. And I've already got my login. If you haven't got one, create a Sphero account. So I click on my email or user. I put in my details. I put straight in. I go enter. And I'm now in the Sphero EDU application. So it's a little bit daunting. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but let me break this down very simply. The home screen is a live feed of activities or lesson plans that are being brought straight into the application by Sphero. So this is content that we're creating all the time that you can access and run with your students in a classroom setting. Okay. The next feature below home is activities. This is where we store all of our activities that are either via Sphero or via the community. So the first tab you'll see is under activities workbook. So these are perhaps lessons that I'm currently working on or are in progress. As you can see, I haven't been very busy over the last couple of weeks. I've got no lesson plans in there. But if I click on Sphero, you'll see this bank of thousands upon thousands of lesson plans. Again, you know, there's all sorts in here, and I can actually do a search via here and put filters on. So if I wanted to search on something that's called perhaps maths, I can put that in there, and it will bring me up all of the activities that Sphero as an organisation have created that are aligned to maths curriculum. There's some stuff around rugby here at the moment that we're doing, but you can get quite granular here. But actually going to the URL browser, which we'll come on to, allows you to put more search functionality into this to get even more granular. So if you're looking for something in Key Stage 1, perhaps with maths or maybe art, then you can do that through the EDU browser. But just below Sphero, you see this thing called community. And I think this is the power that this application has. You know, it's used by millions upon millions of users around the world. And a lot of those teachers and students are creating their own lesson plans and sharing it with you as a user to this application. And this is where you find those activities. So these are community-based activities. And again, the search functionality is the same, and you can still search through those activities in a granular detail via our web browser. Now, CS Foundation, just for those of you who won't be familiar with this, is our paid for content. And this is supported by our Computer Science Foundation curriculum, which again is available for teachers that want to go that one step further with Sphero, that want to go and do a deep dive into what we consider is a fairly structured program that goes from very beginner to advanced level coding through 72 structured lesson plans. And I think the key to CS Foundation is that it also allows you to, I suppose, cross that bridge where I think a lot of teachers find it very difficult, which is going from block to syntax code level coding. And we do that in a very nice and polished way. So that's activities. Programs are simply programs that you can run on your robot. So there's no structured lesson plan behind this, but this is how you would actually program a robot. So in my programs, these are programs that I've been working on or perhaps building to run on my robots. Under Sphero, these are programs that we as a brand create and share with you, and any program you can run on your robots, okay? And again, you know, there's thousands upon thousands in here, and we'll do a deep dive in a second on some of these. And then community, again, these are programs that teachers and students around the world are creating and sharing with you as a user to this application. Right, next is classes, and we'll come on to classes in a bit actually. I'll show you how you can create a class, add students to it, and then create a class code so that when the students come in, all they have to do is punch in the class code number and access the EDU application. So how do we pair the robot with the iPad? Well, in the top right hand corner, you'll see we've got a little Sphero head and a little device next to it. If I click on there, it's going to ask me to select my robot type. Now, it could be that you've bought Rover or Bolt or Spark Plus, but in my circumstances, I've got a Bolt in front of me here. So I click on Bolt, and it's going to search for all of the bolts that are in your classroom. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a Bolt Power Pack, you'll have 15 in your classroom, and you'll probably see 15 robots on here. What you'll notice, though, is that the closest robot to the device will be the one that's at the top of the list, so with the biggest sort of meter reading. So I'm going to click on there, and it's now going to connect to my robot. And you should see your robots light up when this happens. So I'm now connected. But how do we create a program? How do we actually start to write some code and actually see Bolt in action? Well, let's go, we're on programs, let's go to My Programs. And you'll see now in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got this plus sign. So if I click on this plus sign, we can now start to build a program. Now we can give it a program name. You don't have to, but you can do. So I'm just going to call this test. I'm going to start with draw. As I mentioned before, you know, this offers 3 different coding canvases: draw, block, and text. So let's start with draw. We click create, and now what you'll see is a blank canvas. And effectively, this is almost like a sketchbook. So I can draw anything. And this is great for sort of Key Stage 1, early Key Stage 2. I could be trying to teach students about number formations, spellings or punctuations, or even 2-dimensional shapes. So sort of sticking with a 2-dimensional shape theme, let's start to sort of build out a square. What does a square look like? And how do we get Bolt to execute a square based on this program? So I'm just going to draw a simple square on my iPad with my finger. There it is there. And what I need to do, I'm just going to get up from my chair because I'm going to put my robot on the floor, and we're going to see this in live action. What I need to do is I need to aim my robot because it's a round ball. If you haven't seen it, if you look at my screen, you should see it there. It's a round ball. I need to put it on the floor, and I need to give it a sense of direction. Like I say, it doesn't have a front, back, or sides because it's a round ball, but in the top right-hand corner, there's this function called aim. If I click on aim, it brings up a LED light on the robot, and I want that LED light facing me as the controller. Once I've done that, I'm just going to bring up my camera by pressing the 3 little dots in the top right-hand corner and click on camera. You should be able to see my robot on the floor. And now I can start my program by clicking start. And it's going to roll, hopefully, in a nice square. Done.
Well done. That's a good square.
Thank you very much. So let's have a look at that and actually see what's going on. Because remember, you know, inside the actual robot, there's some advanced technology, lots of sensors, and we can actually look at that sensor data. So if I click on the top 3 dots in the right-hand corner and click on sensor data, here we go. So I can start to look at the actual location that the robot rolled in. So I've got an X, Y axis here. So I could start to build out things like areas of a shape and things like that. You know, this robot rolled roughly 32 centimeters by roughly 44 centimeters, as you can see. But then if I keep on clicking through these pages, we've got orientation. So this is degrees over time. We've got gyroscope. So this is the rotation rate over time. Probably slightly advanced for Key Stage 1. But this pattern follows all the way through, whether you're doing it in draw, blocks, or text. So you'll be able to pick up the same data. Accelerometers, so actually measuring the G-force that's being pulled inside the robot here. And velocity as well. And finally, distance, so the actual distance that the motors rolled during that program. Okay. The other thing that we can see here, which is really exciting, is the actual JavaScript code that's being sent to the robot when I've made my draw program. So as you can see, it's, you know, it's pretty complicated. Looks quite, I suppose, what's the word I would say? It looks quite complicated, actually, I suppose. You know, there's a lot going on in there. But that's exactly what's being sent to the robot to execute that command. And we'll come on to JavaScript in a second. So as I say, this is ideal for Key Stage 1, whether you're doing 2-dimensional shapes, number formations, spellings, or punctuations. Whatever you draw on here, you know, it could be, like I say, numbers, you know, you could be drawing Christmas trees, doesn't matter. Even artwork is great for this. And I've often seen a lot of teachers, because the Bolt robot is waterproof, putting out a tray with some paints on the side, allowing the robot to roll in the paints, and then just having some fun with this and doing some really creative digital artwork using our robot and dipping it in paint. The only thing is, it does get messy, so I would suggest that you have lots of paper towels available and get ready to clean those robots thereafter. So I've just moved back a page, and I'm back onto programs and My Programs, and I'm going to click on the plus sign again. So next we're going to move on to block-based coding, and this is probably my favorite. So most of you will be familiar with Scratch as an application, and we use a Scratch-based canvas within this. So again, I can I can pinch and pull on the screen, move it around, and then what I can start to do is build up my program. So if I want, and again, sort of staying with the theme of squares, let's start to build out a square program using block. So I'll bring up a roll command, and I put that underneath on start program. Now a roll command has 3 parameters. The first is degrees. So which direction do I want my robot to roll in? So I'm going to start at 0 degrees. Okay, so that will roll straight ahead. The second parameter is speed. So this goes from 0 to 255. Now, depending on what material, surface material you're actually rolling on, will determine the sort of speed that you want to go at. I'm on carpet, so I'm going to go for around about 80. I think that's probably about right. And then the third parameter is duration. So how long do I want that robot to roll on this command? So I'm going to put down 3 seconds. Okay. The next parameter I need to put in is obviously another 3 roll commands. Now, either I can just pull those up and attach those below my sequence, or if I hold my finger down on the roll command, I can copy from canvas, hold down again, and then paste. And that will bring up another roll command with exactly the same parameters, which helps because obviously if I'm trying to build the perfect square, all the parameters apart from degrees are going to be the same. So I'll do the same. I'll just drag these ones up for now. Okay. Oh, I shouldn't have done that actually, but I've done it now. So let's just add those in. Just add that one in there. 80 and 3. So the only parameters I need to change on there are the degrees. So I'm going to leave the first at 0. The second, I want it to move at a degrees of 90 degrees. And the third at 180. And then the fourth at 270. Now you may be thinking, well, surely a square has 90-degree turns times 4. Well, yes, it does. But remember that Bolt sees the world in 360 degrees. So this is what, you can do it the other way, but this is why under a roll command scenario, this is why we would execute the parameters in this way. Now, if I was to start this program, we would have a bit of an issue. What we would see is this round arching effect on the corners because it's immediately going from one roll command to another without stopping or pausing before the next roll command. So what we would do under this scenario is add a delay. So under controls, I can add a delay, pop that in between each roll like this. And that will pause the robot before it makes its next roll command. Just put it in for 1 second.
And that's about the momentum, isn't it? So as it's rolling in one direction, unless you stop it, that momentum will round the edges of the square.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Let's give this a go. Right. I'm going to get my robot on the floor again. Remember, I need to aim this robot. So I'm going to click on aim again and just bring this around so it faces me. I'll bring up the camera so you can see my robot. There we go. Now I'm going to click on start. Oh, I've gone a bit too far. Okay, 3 seconds was probably a little bit too long for my room. But never mind. We got there in the end. So I stopped the program. Okay, just a quick one as well. If you're running a lesson and they're doing a program and you want them to provide some evidence, they can use the camera feature and actually record themselves as well and then upload that to their programs as proof of activity. Okay, so there's the block program for building a square. But let's have a look at the JavaScript code side by side. So there you go. And actually you can start to see the simple structure of what JavaScript code is. You know, it's not this alien language that, you know, we all think it is. It's actually quite straightforward. And you can start to see how the thing is laid out and actually how you can start to manipulate this language and do something with it. So I can actually copy this code to my clipboard using the feature at the bottom of the page. So I've copied that now. Now, before I go on to sort of showing you the next level, there are tons of things you can do within Block and also in JavaScript code. You know, we've got lights, sounds, sensors, all sorts of things going on in this robot, and so you can start to incorporate lots of things. You know, I could start to add different LEDs to come up on the robot. I could do some animation through the matrix grid on the top of the robot. You know, we can start to either put in there emojis, or you could build your own animation as well inside the program, which is pretty cool. Lots of things.
Absolutely incredible. Perhaps we'll take a look at the JavaScript in more detail next time, Darren. But as you had the two side by side, I saw clearly the correlation between what was in the block code on one side of the screen and the parameters that were in the Java as well. So it's becoming familiar even at this early stage. Fabulous. I believe you've got some videos of some best practices that have been collected from around the world. Let's take a look at those.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just switch back to the presentation. So, you know, often teachers, before we go into that, let me just paint a story. So often I think teachers, you know, get to a certain point with any of this technology, whether it's Sphere or other robots that they may have in the classroom, they get to a certain point, it's like, well, where do I go next? What do I do next? And so we wanted to sort of simplify, you know, how we approach STEM or STEAM, you know, and actually show you some examples that probably go beyond what you're doing in a classroom setting. So this just gives you some visuals around what you can do. By no means least is this, you know, the be all and end all. There are thousands of things you can do, but just hopefully this will inspire you. So on the left here, you see planetary motion, and this is allowing students to describe the movement of Earth and other planets relative to the sun in the solar system. It's a great activity, aligns to curriculum. You know, it's already built in the application, but it's a really fun way to sort of utilize robots in this lesson. On the right-hand side, we've got long jump. So this is a great sort of science activity where they can start to select, plan, and carry out types of scientific inquiries to test predictions, you know, dependent and control variables where appropriate, etc., etc. So then when we start to look at technology, you know, whilst Bolt is technology in itself, you know, we've got things like on the left-hand side, these students have had access to a 3D printer and started to build out what they call a strand beast. And then they've taken some rollerblades, taken the wheels from there, mounted these on the contraption, and then used our robot as the engine to this strand beast. So this is way beyond just coding. You know, this is technology, this is engineering, this is all sorts of things going on in this one lesson. And of course, programming. I mean, you know, fundamentally, we are programming our robots. So using sequences, selections, and repetitions in program is vital to technology. Engineering is a great way of sort of bringing our robots to life as well. And some of these are my favorites. So, you know, looking at Chariot Challenge. So these kids here have just used simple materials that you can find in any classroom setting, built their own chariots, and then at the end of their lesson or in the assembly hall, they've brought together the whole school, had this race, you know, and Bolt becomes the engine and the front wheel to these chariots. It's just fantastic. And I think my favorite one is the water challenge here that you're watching, the hydro hypothesis. So giving students a tub of water, a Bolt robot, which is completely waterproof, a load of materials, and saying, how do I get those coins from one side of the water to the other? And just letting them go off and just, you know, problem solve this issue. I think that's just incredible. Art.
Here is my story about having a party when no one is home. Is there anyone here?
I don't know. Why don't you look around, Sphero?
I guess not. Party time.
A party!
Oh, that was fun.
So,
all right, everyone.
So within art, you know, I mean, so let me go back one. So within art, you know, there's some amazing things in there, but storytelling functionality is pre-built inside the application. So if you're looking to do things within literacy, poems, or letter writing, that's all inside the application, as well as paint. As I said before, this is waterproof. So you can do artwork with this as well. You know, create an amazing Jackson Pollock piece of artwork if you want to. It's just so diverse in terms of what you can do and the curriculum subjects that you can apply this to.
Here is my story.
We've done that one. Maths, and obviously, you know, the big M in STEAM. You know, when you think about just navigating a maze, you know, it looks quite basic, but think about the maths that are incorporated into this simple activity. They've got to learn about angles and you know, degrees and dimensions. They've got to learn about speed and time and all of those different mathematical equations to simply navigate this maze. And Martian attack coordinates as well, describing positions on a 4-coordinate grid using all 4 quadrants. These are just some examples. There's thousands upon thousands within the application, but that just gives you a flavour of what we're doing today.
Absolutely fantastic. So I think your contact details are on one of these slides. So let's just pop that up for a second or two, and then people can make a note of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go. And your Memoji as well. Fantastic. So we will look in more detail in a week's time. And yeah, mind blown. Boof. The Sphero really are good fun. Aren't they? As you say, you can put them in water, you can paint with them, and I've seen some great examples up and down the country of schools doing just that. But it's just the energy, isn't it? You put a couple of those on a classroom floor, and everybody wants to go, don't they? So fantastic. And we'll perhaps take a look at the rover a little bit in a week's time. Amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
David, let's have our wrap up. And
Okay.
David, there looks like there's some good evidencing features within this Sphero workflow.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And it's just that it is that getting the engagement from the children, because as soon as you're coding on the screen, that's brilliant. And there's all those problems and logical thinking that we've been looking at in the Swift Playgrounds app. But the minute you get something that's running around the floor or on the table, or you're building it and you're solving all these kind of real world problems, it just brings all the coding to life, and the children get so engaged with that whole process. And it helps that whole learning of the coding and the language and the syntax, and just makes it much more exciting for the children, really.
Absolutely, and there's no harm in learning more than one programming language, is there, at all?
Well, and that's it's seen the similarities between them. We had a very brief look at the JavaScript there, but actually that was a function that we looked at in Swift last week. There's a lot of similarity in the way they're structured. It's just slight variations between the different languages. So yeah, you just in that knowledge.
Absolutely. So as a teacher, if you want to know more about Apple's Everyone Can Code program, and there are Sphero modules available for this for free, and in fact, as Darren was drawing a square, I was looking at the Swift code for a repeating square in the Swift Playgrounds app. There you go. I'm a big swat. So if you want to know more about the Everyone Can Code program, which is totally free, point your iOS device at that QR code, and that will take you to Apple's overview page of the Everyone Can Code program. Around about halfway down that page, there is a big PDF that sort of maps out the hours of content to the different age groups. And as Darren has said, Sphero have an equivalent program with a whole ton of content for different age groups and abilities. But Everyone Can Code, go take a look. It's completely free, so no reason why you wouldn't take a look at that. If you want to know more about Apple's other programs for the classroom, then do take a look at the Apple Teacher program. So Apple Teacher is free online professional learning. Top QR code there will take you to an overview of the program. And the lower QR code there is the sign up page. You just simply sign up with your Apple ID. That's your iTunes account, your Apple Music account, any of those Apple accounts that you might have. Identify yourself as a teacher, work through the modules, and earn yourself the Apple Teacher accreditation. And if you're a school that wants to take your computing resources to the next level, then do take a look at the MCC MyLearn Computing Toolkit, which features 16 iPads, one between 2 for a class and 1 for teacher, 15 Sphero Bolt robots. Darren talked about the class kit that they have. One of those is part of our toolkit, and a class pack of 5 Sphero Rover robots. That's the tracked robot you see at the top of the screen there. They're great fun. Hopefully Darren's going to get his rover out next week, and we're going to take a look and see what that does. And of course, the access to those teaching materials through the Everyone Can Code program and through the Sphero EDU app. You're not going to run out of things to do with your children when it comes to teaching computing, coding, computational thinking. That's the toolkit. It's available for just £289 per month on a 3-year MCC MyLearn subscription. So if you want to know more about that, reach out to us here at MCC, and we'll be happy to come and tell you all about it. We'll bring a Sphero, we'll bring a rover, we'll bring some iPads, and we'll have a lot of fun for an hour or two. That is it for us. We are bang on 1:30, and we had so much to share. So that's amazing. Dave and I will be back back in the Playgrounds universe next Tuesday, and join us again next Thursday when Darren's going to come back. Darren, what are you going to show us?
I'm going to show you Swift Playgrounds.
Excellent. And I hope there's a rover as well.
Do some retro games.
And retro games? I'm in heaven already. Fabulous. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you.